peaceful meadow surrounded by rolling hills, there lived a clever little mouse named Max. Max was small, with soft gray fur and twinkling black eyes. He lived in a snug little hole under an old oak tree, where he stored his treasures, nuts, berries, and tiny bits of food he found during his adventures. Max was known in the meadow for his intelligence and quick thinking. Though he was the smallest animal around, he had outsmarted many dangers with his cleverness. However, trouble was never far away in the wild, and Max knew that staying alert was the key to survival. One sunny morning, as Max was nibbling on a crumb of bread he had found, he heard rustling in the bushes nearby. Peeking out cautiously, he saw a fox prowling around. The fox, with its sleek orange coat and cunning amber eyes, was sniffing the air. It was clearly looking for its next meal. Max's heart raced. He knew foxes were swift and clever, but he also knew they were overconfident. "Stay calm, Max," he whispered to himself. "You've gotten out of tough spots before." The fox's sharp eyes landed on Max. A sly smile spread across its face as it approached. "Well, well," the fox said smoothly, "what a fine morning to meet you, little mouse. Don't you look delicious, delightful today?" Max gulped but quickly put on a brave face. "Good morning, Mr. Fox," he replied politely. "What brings you to this part of the meadow?" The fox chuckled, circling Max's hole. "Oh, nothing much. Just taking a stroll and looking for breakfast. Speaking of which, you'd make a perfect meal." Max's mind raced. He needed to think fast. "A meal?" he said, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, but why settle for me when there's something much better nearby?" The fox paused, intrigued. "Better than a plump little mouse like you? What are you talking about?" Max's whiskers twitched as he came up with a plan. "Not far from here," he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "there's a basket full of cheese. Big, golden chunks of it. I saw it just this morning." The fox's eyes widened. "Cheese, you say?" Max nodded eagerly. "Yes. It's the most delicious cheese you've ever seen. If you let me go, I'll show you where it is." The fox licked its lips, tempted by the thought of the cheese. But being naturally suspicious, it narrowed its eyes at Max. "Why would you tell me this? What's in it for you?" Max pretended to look nervous. "Well," he stammered, "I just figured if you're busy with the cheese, you won't bother me. It's a win-win, right?" The fox considered this and decided it was worth the risk. "Fine," it said, "show me the cheese." Max stepped out of his hole cautiously. "Follow me," he said, leading the fox toward the tall grass on the edge of the meadow. As they walked, Max kept talking to distract the fox. "You know," Max said, "I've always admired foxes. You're so clever and fast. If I were as big as you, I'd be unstoppable." The fox puffed up with pride. "That's true," it said, grinning. "We foxes are pretty amazing." As they neared the tall grass, Max suddenly stopped. He sniffed the air dramatically and looked around. "What's wrong?" the fox asked, growing impatient. Max's eyes widened as he pointed toward the sky. "Oh no," he whispered. "Do you see that?" The fox looked up and saw a hawk circling overhead. Its wings were wide, and its sharp eyes seemed to pierce the ground below. "Hawks love catching foxes," Max said, his voice trembling just enough to sound convincing. "That one must think you're after its cheese. You should hide before it swoops down." The fox's confidence faltered. It didn't like the idea of being attacked by a hawk. "Are you sure?" it asked, its ears twitching nervously. "Absolutely," Max said, backing away slowly. "I'll keep an eye on the cheese for you. You go hide in the bushes until the hawk is gone." The fox hesitated for a moment, then decided Max was right. Without another word, it dashed into the bushes, its tail disappearing among the leaves. Max wasted no time. As soon as the fox was out of sight, he turned and ran back to his hole as fast as his little legs could carry him. When the fox peeked out of the bushes a few minutes later, the hawk was gone, but so was Max. Realizing it had been tricked, the fox growled in frustration. "That clever little mouse outsmarted me." Back at his hole, Max chuckled to himself. "Sometimes brains beat brawn," he said, nibbling on his bread crumb. From that day on, the fox never underestimated the clever little mouse. Moral: quick thinking and intelligence can help you overcome even the trickiest situations.